Welcome everybody to the SIG Network meeting for Thursday, December 10th, 2020. And first on the agenda is, as always, Triage. Does anybody have Triage queued up? Woohoo! All right. Go ahead, Bridget.
Yeah, so I thought this was really interesting actually, because we are doing an amazing job lately of triaging. I will share this if it lets me.
I did enable
Screen.
sharing.
Fantastic.
Tim
Okay.
mentioned that he had done pre-meeting triage,
He
so
did.
that may be why it looks like we're doing amazing, because he already did it all.
He did. It was amazing. Let's see if there's more than the 15 that we were down to. Okay, we're down to these 15. So 1 second latency in host service IP pod with IP tables. So this person has issues, well-documented issues, suggested fix, blah, 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 uses IP tables. I think somebody was already looking at this. Various workarounds.
I think Dan was the person who was looking at the VXLAN offload stuff, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was looking into it a long time ago, yes.
So what do we want to do with this?
This is a question like, yeah, can you look at this and see if you can answer the, I mean, the question is really like, is there a better answer?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry, I assigned you unilaterally. I didn't ask.
That's fine.
Okay, so we're just leaving this one the way it is?
Yep.
Okay. And then we're going already to 29 days ago. Oh my gosh. All right. This is already assigned service topology. Doesn't reject traffic when there's no matching endpoint. And it looks like, Andrew, do you have any ideas, or do you want this assigned to someone else? If Andrew is on the call.
Yeah, I'll follow up. Thanks.
Okay. Moving right along. Network policies are blocking allowed traffic. Oh no. Okay. This one, again, people have been troubleshooting it for a bit. Jay, you want to update us on this?
Oh, this is totally done. Yeah, we can close it. We have an E2E test that's pending a PR for this, a new policy test, and then we've got, I think this guy solved his problem, and yeah, this is totally. Yeah.
Okay, so this is 96341. You want to go update that?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, code proxy -- cleanup. It's not cleaning our IPVS rules. Let's see. Antonio, do you have thoughts here? Or it looks like Andrew owns it. Antonio commented on it back in October.
Okay.
Can you hear Antonio, go ahead.
Okay. Now, this is coming from a discussion that Tim and Andrew had in that issue. So I think that only both of you are able to answer this.
I read a little bit on the history of this. It looks like at one point we made cleanup, not cleanup IPVS rules. And there was a separate command that was needed to turn on cleanup IPVS rules. And then we deprecated the IPVS cleanup entirely, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So I'm not sure what the user really wants here.
Okay, I can follow up and ask some questions. Maybe some person that just want to comment something.
Maybe. I mean, maybe the answer is like, we're just not doing that anymore.
Okay, so I'm going to assign Antonio so you can follow up.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. NF tables do not scale for services. Let's see. And we have Tim asking what's going on here. What do we think?
I pinged this today. I'd like to know what we think the follow-up is. To me, it didn't sound like this was expected behavior, and it doesn't align with what other people have reported. So I guess I want to figure out what the next investigation is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what do folks think? Looks like
Yeah,
Bowie
it
grabbed
works.
this one.
Oh, I grabbed it to keep track of it. I think Mache needs to post some more info.
Okay.
The version, he should try to a newer version of IP tables than that particular one. I know there have been performance fixes since the one he's referencing there.
I'll send him a ping to follow up if he's going to be able to try that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to work and try to get him an RPM that would maybe work better.
Okay. All right. Range allocator.go crashes the entire world, or at least the entire KCM, if the setters are incorrect for
So
a single
Jay-
node.
Jay, you were looking at this. Are you confirming that it is in fact a bug?
I think I thought it was a bug, and then we talked to Dan and Antonio about it, and we had kind of a three-way debate. I think we kind of agree it's a bug. I don't remember who owned making the next decision about what to do about it.
Well, if you're saying that you can in fact crash the controller manager through an API object update, even a bad object update, then that's a bug. At the very least, it should not crash, right?
That's what I thought, yeah, because it's a spec update and it's for a single node. So, okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'll switch the labels on this. Let's confirm this as a bug. If somebody wants to work on it, I don't know how hard it's going to be or what the impact of trying to fix it will be. I'll update this one.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, maybe I can propose a stupid fix, and then if someone has a better one, that might help move the issue forward. So I might be able to look at it. We'll see. Okay.
All right. I know we're running low on time, but we also got started a little late, so just tell me when we should stop. But we've got pod to pod low bandwidth. Wow, we're back into October already. All right. What do we think, Mr. Williams? Possible pad to pod bandwidth limit, maybe.
Yeah, I did not have time to look into that one yet, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's hard to call this one a bug because I would expect it would be much more widespread, but it would be good if somebody who has some context could at least confirm that there's not something obviously wrong.
Emlyn is on our team. Andrew, do we know anything about this one? Oh,
I don't know anything.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to be added as an assignee to talk to this individual?
You can probably assign him directly on the.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that of like who to assign.
Yeah, why don't you just assign Hanlin and then I can ping him internally and ask him if he wants to follow up, or Andrew can. Yeah.
Like so?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay. Oh, we have Jay, you reported excitement, adventure. Tim has questions about your firewall choices.
Oh yeah, I think we all agreed this was probably the client. We need to spread these. Yeah, we know what to do here. We just, I almost feel like this is a good getting started issue or something, but we know what to do here. Nobody's doing it. It's not hard. We just need to move. We need to make this test so that it spreads the client around in a logical way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced that that's really the solution. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the bug, but if you have firewalls up and you're trying to run the EDE tests, like, do we really expect it to work?
It's just the opposite. The problem is that he has the firewalls up and the test pass. So it should fail.
It's the lack of consistency.
But we know that fabric level firewalls are insufficient for constraining pod-to-pod traffic. So anybody I would argue that it's actually correct. It's showing him that his firewall is not effective.
Right. The problem is that sometimes, even if you have a firewall up, the tests pass, and that's a bug. We're saying the test should fail consistently rather than failing inconsistently.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just a consistency.
So then you always want to run it on the same node.
Mhm.
You always
Yeah.
want to go worst case, right?
Right. We always want the client pod and the server node to be different so that the traffic is forced to go over the network and will fail if you have a bad firewall.
So we need to change this
Well,
test.
we need to figure out,
Oh.
are we trying to prove that the firewall works or that the firewall doesn't work? Because I'm arguing any such firewall doesn't work because
Right.
it doesn't contain pod-to-pod, same node traffic. So I would say the test would want to run them on the same node so that the test would always pass, because
No, but the argument is that the person upset about this is running their tests in an invalid configuration and needs to stop doing that. So we should make it fail every time they try rather than making it look like their configuration is valid sometimes.
I see. So we should be testing both.
Well, ideally,
Yeah, I was going to say, why not both?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
Sorry, Antonio, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is we should test both. But if you use node ports,
Yeah.
you are expecting to use it to receive traffic from outside. So the minimum has to be to validate that people can reach out the node port from outside. No. If I deploy my cluster, I expect that people can reach the node ports on the node IPs, not my pods in the same
That's
node.
right.
So minimum,
That's
I think that the minimum should be from outside to the node port, and of course we should do both.
Yeah, I guess, Bridget, could you just say either test both or just do from, outside to node port? Because either one of those, I guess, is probably going to help us move forward, and then someone can do a PR. It's not, maybe I can do it at some point.
Okay.
Antonio, I forget now, do we have a mechanism within the Ede framework for testing from outside the cluster?
Yeah. Well, yes, we have a way to schedule the pods in different nodes. This is what we are using in several E2E.
But we don't have a machine that's not part of the cluster that we can launch tests.
No. The trick is always to use different nodes in the cluster.
Wait, is that true? I thought ede.test itself runs on a host, which it might be part of the same like GCP, VPC or whatever, but it's not part of the cluster.
No, but so I think maybe, but the E2E is not guaranteed to reach the cluster.
And you're not guaranteed
Yeah,
that
I can run the Ede
in a pod, right?
Right, I can run the Ede on my desktop.
Right, and
I'm pretty sure that there are tests that will fail if ede.test cannot reach load balancers and external IPs.
Yeah, but the thing, okay, load balancer and external IP is a different beast because it's cloud provider specific.
For this one, it's so easy though. Literally, we just pick the first node. If we just pick a different node, it would be like solve most of this issue.
Okay.
So
should
I'm going on. I want to do something with the E2E. We need to do something for the dual stack, and I will take on this too, and we'll try to
So
work
are
on
we
this.
saying this?
Yeah.
All right. Let me know when we should stop and go to the agenda because there are agenda items. So I'm just looking at the time. Fearless
This one I
Leader
pinged
Dan.
today, and I pinged this person today, and they said they will try to get it. They'll try to take a look at it.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see then.
So
Yeah, we should probably stop triage, do the rest
Stop.
of the agenda, and then come back if we
Sounds
have
great.
time left at the end.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Bridget, and thanks everybody else too. Next up, Dan Winship, endpoint slice and proxy modes.
Yeah, so I was just doing some planning stuff, and it occurred to me that probably at some point we will want to not have duplicated code in kubeproxy once everybody is supposed to be moved to endpoint slice. And I wasn't sure if anybody had thought about that already.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. That's a good point. And I think the questions you added here are great and relevant. I don't know of any plans right now to add support to user space proxy for endpoint slices. And I don't know of anyone using the user space proxy either. But other than OpenShift, like you mentioned there. But with that said, I'm open to it. I'm sure anyone else is too. But I don't personally have plans for that.
Right. I guess I should have clarified that for anyone who doesn't have the agenda up. So the questions was, one, is anybody planning to port the user space proxy to endpoint slice? And two, does anybody know of anyone even using the user space proxy?
I use the Linux Windows one, but I don't know how long I'm going to be using it, but I use it right now. We use it. Excuse Andre uses the Windows user space one.
That has the same issue where endpoint slices have not been ported to Windows user space. Some folks on the Azure team ported it to Windows kernel, but it has not made its way to Windows user space.
So
yeah, there's a lot to be done there. I have a cleanup PR for the Windows user space one, by the way, also kind of in flight. I remember Andrew mentioned this as well, a related one. There's a lot of stuff to do on those user space.
So then the other thing, and I see Andrew just responded in chat, is wondering, I mean, do people think that we should get rid of the duplicated code in kubeproxy? Because if people are happy keeping both sets of code, then none of this matters anyway. But Tim, you
I think it's a good.
kept almost unmuting, but then not saying anything.
I'm always happy to see duplicated code get removed. I'm not familiar with how reusable the code there is.
So for a little bit more context right now, there's a kind of kubeproxy local data structure that both endpoints and endpoint slice map into, and then each proxier uses that data structure. Well, each of the non-user space proxiers use that data structure. There is more duplicated code for the user space proxiers. But it's not a huge cost, but like has already been alluded to, if we imagine there's a time in the not too distant future where people just won't be using endpoints in kubeproxy, then it may not be worth the value of keeping it around forever.
Okay, so I added to the end of the thing. It sounds like nobody really cares that much about getting rid of the old code for now, at least. So that resolves that.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think the feature gate that's guarding endpoint slice implementation in kubeproxy is probably 1 to 2 releases away from being GA. And if it's anything like the controller functionality, we've said we wouldn't deprecate anything related to endpoints until after the endpoint slice functionality went GA. And that's a long path. So,
right. I mean, yeah, I had meant this was all post GA stuff. Like, once the feature gate is locked on, there would be no way to turn off endpoint slices in kubeproxy.
Yeah.
And what happened with the node name topology thing? Because this was a last minute thing, Rob.
Yeah, so, that's a good.
Okay, I'm asking.
Yeah, it's a good question. This is something like I had been trying to graduate the endpoint slice API to GA in the 120 cycle, and had a PR that did that, and got some questions and some hesitancy around the topology field because it was no longer being used essentially by any of the active proposals, and we were wondering, well, hey, can we get rid of this? And obviously, you can't get rid of a field at the same time, or you shouldn't at the same time as going to GA. And so we decided to, there's some discussions on GitHub on the PR around this. But the general idea, as I remember it, was let's try and pull topology out and instead just use node name to mirror what endpoints already has. And use slice level labels for topology keys like zone and region, and subsetting based on that. Is that what you were asking about?
Yeah, so that means that we need more release cycles to have parity with endpoints, because the current local traffic and these things are using the endpoints node name or this thing, no? I think the kube proxy use the host name in or the node name in endpoints to redirect local traffic or something like that.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, there is a way that it can be converted in a backwards compatible way. I forget the specifics of it. But there should be a way to make that work as part of an upgrade.
Okay.
I didn't think the plan was to upgrade, was to automatically transmute that though. I thought we were adding node name and saying this is the GA form, topology was alpha and it's going away.
Right, but
Isn't that what we talked about already?
Yes, I'll need to go back to my notes on this one. As far as somehow I thought that a field that like the topology node name equivalent field could be no, yeah, you're right. That got too messy. Yeah, I'll look back at my notes on that one. I'll make a PR to update the cap. I know there's already been some updates, but I'll go through and make sure it's a little bit clearer what's happening.
Cool, thank you. Did I lose everyone?
Nope. Still here.
So,
okay,
I mean, with my.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like we're up to Tim for a couple of CVEs. External IPs CVE first, and revisit LocalNet CVE was the next topic after that. So go ahead, Tim.
Great. So thank you. So I'm sure most of you saw the external IPs CVE drop this week. It's not new, actually. Clayton filed a bug against it in like 2016. So it's known. The problem is that it's just an overly powerful feature that because of our compatibility guarantees, we can't just unilaterally break. So I wrote a small cap this week to propose that we add a new built-in admission controller to disable the use of external IPs, and cluster admins can opt in to disabling it. I believe that, anecdotally, like 99% of clusters can probably opt into this and will never use it. And everybody else who really does need it can not opt in, and they can either leave it the way it is, or they can apply policy through OPA or whatever other policy mechanism they're currently using, which is strictly simpler than what the OpenShift has a controller that's similar to this, I guess. but it actually allows some CIDR checks and things like that. I'm saying let's not even bother. But I wanted to throw it out here and see if anybody like fundamentally objected to that plan. I'll take silence as no. The KEP is out there. I'll link the KEP in the chat. Let me find it. It's a small one, and I think I just need to convince the API machinery folks that this is worth having another built-in for. So then the second one, there's the KEP, I just linked it. The second one is this older CVE.
Oh, Tim, I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we think we should think about deprecating that feature, or we just kind of leave it and that's it?
I don't know. Usually when we say deprecation, I want to say, you know, here's the thing you should use instead. We don't have a thing to use instead. So for now, I'm not recommending that we deprecate. I'm just saying we should just block it for most clusters. And then we can figure out from there whether we want to really deprecate it or not. Disagree?
Yeah, I wonder if we should, I guess that will wean people off of it.
I hope so. I think there are still some people who are legitimately using it, and I'd like to hear from those people so we can think about better solutions, and then we could possibly deprecate it.
So in OpenShift, we had been using it as kind of like, you know, a cheap way of getting load balancers on bare metal clusters. But at this point, it's basically a legacy feature, and we're moving towards using metal LB or something. And I think that's probably the right answer for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I agree. And between that and like multi-cluster services was the other use case that I'd heard of people who are migrating between clusters. It seems like most of the use cases that I know of are going away.
yeah, we've been using this with Calico, so I think it would be good to ask also for Casey, because in our case we are using this as external IP and announcing as an Anycast load balancer for ingresses, but that's just the case also.
Yeah, and truthfully, if enough people are using it and they're going to complain about it, I don't mind bringing back a different feature that does the same thing, but in a more controlled way, right? Or honestly, we can just leave it and tell people, this is a really powerful feature. You probably shouldn't use it, but if you do, like, meet my friend Opa.
Great.
Okay. So the second CVE that I threw on the agenda to revisit was this old LocalNet CVE. And just to refresh people's memory, kubeproxy in IP tables mode enables a sysctl in Linux that allows the 127 network to be treated like a routable network, which is in violation of the RFC. What it allows is node ports on localhost. Now, IPv4 doesn't allow node ports on localhost at all, and IPv6 doesn't allow node ports on localhost at all. So what we've got now is IP tables, which does allow it, and everybody else who doesn't. Actually, I think user space does too. And I can't actually speak to the Windows kernel mode. There's not a lot of use cases for supporting it at all. I do know that there were some people who were using it for things like insecure Docker registries on localhost :5000, and they were using it as their how kubelet would pull images. That feels like a gross hack, but I don't want to break people. So we've been discussing in one of the issues, and I'll have to find that one also, how do we actually want to tackle this? And I was hoping to maybe get more brains on this. I just posted the link to the discussion there. I just wanted to bring it back to people's front of their brain as we wrap up the year. It would be nice to not let these linger too far into the new year.
There was a PR in Kubelet to block all the Martians with localhost. I'm pasting it. It's not this. That's not valid. We need more.
Why is it not valid?
No, I'm asking. So why?
So the issue is that the CVE fix blocked some people's use cases.
Okay. So I was.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to just throw this in front of people again to see if there are more creative answers for how to do this, or if it's really just something that we should start weaning people off of, which is mostly what the thing I just linked to says. For the life of me, I can't find a way in IP tables to do what is currently being done with the route localnet without route localnet. Maybe somebody knows it better than me, or can figure out some other way of expressing it. Anyway, so I just wanted to pop it back to the top of everybody's stack. Did I have one more on the agenda? I forget.
Yep, service rest overhaul help needed.
Oh, yes. I took a couple of weeks sort of off of my normal day-to-day responsibilities at work, and I focused just on getting some upstream issues pinned down. Specifically, Cal and I spent a lot of time together finishing off the dual stack stuff in late October, early November. It went in looking at that, I realized just how awful the REST code around service is. It's some of the oldest REST code in the system, and it does things that no other resource does. And it's written, it just hasn't been updated as the best practices have evolved. And so it was just horrible. It's got this 2-layer, Cal says he's being nice, it's worse. It's got this 2-layered REST thing that ends up calling validation and strategy stuff twice. So there's actually some validation code that allows things that shouldn't be allowed because it gets run once before validation and once after, or once before allocation and once after allocation. It's a real mess. And so Cal and I brainstormed on how we could do better and how we could actually bring it into a single layer and make it look more like the rest of all the other resources. So to that end, I started on a PR, and I've proven end to end that we can actually move it down into one layer, but the PR is getting unwieldy. And I'm here to say, if anybody has some free cycles and they'd like to learn a new area of the code that they haven't played with before and help write some tests and port some test cases and clean up some stuff, I could sure use help on it. And I'll link here the PR that I have in progress. And anybody who opens that will realize that there's a lot of work to be done still. So anybody who wants to pitch in and help out on that, a lot of what I need to do is just making sure that the test cases are really sufficient. Like I did the create path and I found some test cases that weren't covered before. And in fact, I found bugs. So the update path needs help on test coverage. And then there's just a lot of cleanup and stuff to do in there. So anybody who wants to help, drop me a note and I'm happy to discuss what and how we can collaborate. And that's all. I yield my time.
You had another PR related to this, or it's not related?
I had a couple that were like attempts at solving it in different ways. This is the one that I think we should actually do. And it builds on a different PR that is also not merged yet against the API machinery. So that's all included in there. And I'm discussing getting that API machinery patch merged separately from this.
Okay, so I've
tried to make my notes there's a change we need to do in the API machinery that the API machinery folks basically agree to, but it's not merged yet. And then this builds on top of that.
Okay, the decorator and all the okay, the one that David did and Legit and
Yes.
Robin is before this.
Yes.
Okay, I got it now. Okay.
Right.
What about the discussion that we had the last cycle with Daniel Smith and Dan Winship with the service subnet? Daniel proposed to move the allocation to a admission controller or something like that. Kind of the volume provisioning and these things. I was working with that idea, and I think that we can do it with an admission controller too, and remove the allocators of the API server.
We could, except the admission controllers are not called if an operation is rejected. So if the user sends us in something that will fail validation, and then we go ahead and we allocate IPs and whatever for it, and then it fails validation, we don't get a callback to say, oh, by the way, it failed validation, undo whatever you just did.
Okay, thank you. You saved me 1 or 2 days. So
it's a mess. Like, honestly, the fact that we did all these allocations synchronously makes it all that much harder. But at this point, we can't change that. So we just have to try to make it as like well protected as possible. And it's made worse by the fact that the amount of permutations of all the different fields around type and cluster IPs and cluster IP family and IP family policy and ports and all those, like, all the different ways those things can permute against each other makes a very large test matrix. And update is that squared. So. Put it another way, I wrote a program to generate the test cases for the test to test the code.
This is going to be funny, like the dual stack. So Carl is on board with this, no?
Sorry?
This is going to be funny, like with the dual stack. So
yeah, the dual stack is part of what makes the permutations worse, is because we want to really test against every form of gate enabled, gate disabled, cluster configured as single stack 4, single stack 6, dual stack 4, 6, and dual stack 6, 4, multiplied by all the other permutations. And like I said, I found bugs that way. So, but also I timed out unit tests. So.
Do you have an area in mind that you want to cover? I want to to play with this. But if you
the tests around update are right now. Well, first of all, I could use anybody's eyeballs to look at the tests around create. I think I have a good representation of the various interesting cases through create. I could use help generating the same list for update. There's already some tests that exist. It's a matter of like cleaning them up and making sure that they cover enough that we're happy with them.
Okay, I will.
Are some of these are these carved into issues, or is it like you want someone to take the PR over, or what? Like, what's the?
No, I've got this PR open, and I'm saying, like, if somebody is interested in it, then let's talk about how we want to collaborate. I don't know. We could open a bunch of issues. We could start a dev branch. We could just PR each other against our own private forks. Like, I don't really care. we can figure that out. If nobody says they're interested, then I'll just keep plodding along at my own pace.
Yeah, I'm interested. This is going to be.
All right, well, take a look and then we can talk about how we want to move forward.
At some point, do all these test permutations need to move? I know, Antonio, you had mentioned there's a service APIs test, they're out of tree. And like, is there some point like a new set of tests that need to be out of tree? I was wondering for some of this stuff once the E2E tests get like once all these permutations start becoming important, or is it all going to go in tree the way it?
Well, one of the things we need to figure out is, sorry, Antonio, go ahead.
No, I mean, for this, the best thing is the integration framework. So you can really test everything because we are not doing any data plane testing here.
Right. So I wrote all these tests as unit tests, which really just call into the REST stack and then verify the results. So I thought unit tests would be the smallest scope and therefore probably best. But I'm open to arguments about why integration would be better or why testing at different levels gives us sufficient confidence in it.
We need the different levels because of what you mentioned before. We need to make it fail in one of these conversions on stages. So, for example,
Right.
failing to go to etcd, what happens? How it recovers?
Oh, well, that's an entirely different case that I hadn't even really spent any time on. I was looking at what happens if I say it's a V6 cluster and I ask for a V4 IP address? Does it correctly give me an error, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's different layers, but you mentioned it before. What happens if you are, allocating a need phase in the transaction? I think that Jordan commented in some of your PR, something like that. Well,
can we move further discussion to PR or mailing list?
Please.
Okay. Let's do that. Not to cut things off, but we have 8 minutes left and one more agenda item. So, Dan.
Yeah, I mean,
U1 Beta 1 network policy still exists? Question mark,
so
question mark.
I was reviewing Ricardo's end port PR and noticed that he was updating the API types and extensions. And I was like, why does this still exist? And Christopher Luciano responded to some of my questions, but did we drop the ball? Did we forget to delete stuff we were supposed to have deleted, or?
Maybe.
Or is there some reason?
Good observation.
Delete it, or?
Yeah, I put in there, I don't know if you remember, Tim, but soon after we officially put in egress into V1 of network policy, there was an issue created or something about what do we actually do as far as deleting old code, for instance, like extensions or something. Like, is there a point where we can actually delete it? Because we can do things, as I mentioned in there, by not serving them, and then even putting the option of you can't even re-enable serving them at all, but we still have to contribute to the code to pass tests and stuff.
I think the standard answer for a beta API is we announce the deprecation, say we announce it in 21, and we keep it through 21 and 22, and then we can get rid of the beta API. We just didn't do that.
Like by get rid of, do we mean actually delete the code as well? Is that what you're asking,
Yeah.
Dan?
So you said, Tim,
I think
announce
the answer is yes.
deprecation. Sorry, in 1.21 and then remove when?
We keep it through 21 and 22, and we get rid of it in 23, or if we're feeling generous, 24. But given that this has been a long time, I mean, ultimately we want extensions to be deleted, right?
Right. Okay. I just wanted to capture that in the meeting notes.
Okay, and if it turns out that we did actually already announce, like, because there's a comment that implies that we announced it was going to be removed as of 1.16. If we find that we did announce that, we can just safely delete the code.
Did we do that?
I don't know, but I'm saying if we
Okay.
find the old announcement and like the old release notes or something.
I feel like we should give, if we did that and then we forgot to repeat ourselves, we should probably repeat ourselves one more time. So in the case that we found that, we should say in the release notes for 21 that 21 will be the last version to support extensions v1 beta 1.
Okay.
And then we can get rid of it in 22.
Do those notes look accurate, Dan? What I put down was Tim said announce deprecation, keep v1 beta 1 through at least 1.22, kill in 23 or 24. Or if we did actually announce removal, but we never did it, then re-announce removal, keep for 1.21, remove for 1.22.
That
So-
sounds okay to me.
Okay. Andrew is asking in the chat, don't beta APIs get automatically disabled, removed now? It's not literally automatic. They're supposed to be, and people are supposed to go and find. And for some reason, the KEP that started that process did not look at extensions at all.
So yes, I know that Jordan will dance a little jig when extensions gets deleted completely.
We're not the only ones still there, so we're not the ones blocking it.
No, I know. No, but we should get out of the way.
Okay.
Great observation. Thank you.
All right, we have a few more minutes. Is there anything else to talk about today?
Just quickly, I put in the chat, I found the announcement, or not, I found me talking about announcing it in 2018. A few links to that. I also have in there the issue that I was referring to in our meeting notes. It's under the storage upgrade mechanism issue.
But if we, did you say we put it in the release notes?
I'm trying to remember if I did or not. Mainly, I was wondering about the issue that I just linked in there, 52185.
Everybody's linking each other. Can't click them fast enough. Network policy is no longer served.
Oh, look, I'm CC'd in that issue. I guess I should have known. I guess I should have remembered this from 3.5 years ago.
Yeah, I tried to, for whatever reason, I just remember 2017 is when we added the egress stuff. So I thought that it was around there, but I had no idea how to look for it.
So does that mean that you can't actually use the extensions v1 beta API for network policy? If so, we should just remove it, I think.
Yeah, that was the original thing that I posted in there. You can't, as of 118, even put a flag on to make changes to it.
Awesome. Well then,
But in theory, people might still have objects stored in that format.
don't we? Yeah,
I thought
don't
we
we
should
come
be
through
upgrading them. Oh, but yeah, that's what that storage upgrade mechanism thing is. It's saying, okay, so how can you force all of them to upgrade though if it was created, say, way back when?
But that's a
Never
general
touched again.
problem anytime you remove something, right?
Yeah, I mean, that seems
All right,
to be what
let's,
52185 is saying. It is not safe to remove API object versions, so we are installing a moratorium on API object version removal until this system is in place.
Was it ever put in place?
The issue is still open, so I'm assuming no.
All right. Well, it sounds like we have a couple more things to figure out here. So I assume Dan and Chris, maybe you guys can take a look at what the current situation is.
Yeah.
And then figure out how to proceed based on the advice Tim has given so far.
I dropped the relevant links from the Zoom chat into the Google Doc.
All right, thanks, Bridget. And thanks, Dan and Chris. We are out of time. So unless somebody has something very pressing, we should also say that the next meeting is canceled because that is likely a holiday for a lot of people.
Yep, I already updated the doc. So if you scroll up to the top, you'll see we're
Great.
canceled on the 24th. We meet on the 7th of January.
All right. So
Cool.
thanks again, everybody, and we will see you in January.
Happy, happy, merry, merry.
Thanks all.
Thanks. Bye.